Wednesday's ousting of President Ali Bongo, the Gabonese army officers under the aegis of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions have revealed why they took over power, from the 64-year-old Ali Bongo. The soldiers who highlighted serious institutional, political, economic, and social crisis as factors responsible for the coup said it was necessary for the progress of the West African country. The president's eldest son, Nuruddin Bongo Valentin, who was named coordinator of the presidential affairs in 2019 and remained in the post for 21 months, has also been detained by the army.
Communiqué du Comité pour la transition et la restauration des institutions. Il est porté à la connaissance de la communauté nationale et internationale que M. Ali Bongo Ondimba est gardé en résidence surveillée. Il est entouré de sa famille et de ses médecins. Les personnes dont les noms suivent sont arrêtées notamment pour haute trahison contre les institutions de l'État, détournement massif des deniers publics, malversation financière internationale en bande organisée, faux et usage de faux, falsification de la signature du président de la République, corruption active, trafic de stupéfiants. Il s'agit de Nuruddin Bongo Valentin, Yann Ghislain Ngoulou, Mohamed Ali Saliou.
And of course, that was a live feed from Gabon yesterday. But of course, hours after the military takeover in Gabon, a video emerged where the obviously rattled, ousted president, Ali Bongo, was calling on his friends all over the world to make noise. Let's take a listen.
I'm Ali Bongo Ondimba, president of Gabon. And I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise. For the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you.
Well, that was, of course, now ousted President Ali Bongo Ondimba, who, of course, is, asking that the world comes to his rescue. That's what it sounds like. And, of course, that video did come with, some level of criticism because it was stated over the weekend that the internet services were shut down in Gabon for the elections, of course, during the electoral process. It was blamed on opposition members and opposition party members posting inciting views on social media. That was, the reason behind the shutdown. But they shut it down. And eventually he needed that same internet to call for help. And of course, it's one. I think I did tweet it yesterday that a lot of times the things that we call democracy in Africa mirror military dictatorship. It's pretty much the same thing. Your internet is only as active as the period. I mean, it's only active until somebody gets annoyed. Until your democratically elected president gets upset someday that he feels like he needs to shut down the internet, or he feels like he needs to protect his, a hold on the country. And so he shuts down the internet, shuts down social media. So that, of course, those are the latest stories from Gabon. There's also news reports from analysts saying that the person who is currently the transitional president is closely related to Ali Bongo. Is not a distant person. Is actually close relative to Ali Bongo, and that might be the reason that we do not see. These are just analysts talking. That might be the reason that we do not see France as upset as they were with Niger. With this Gabon story. It might be that the Gabon is not actually free yet. But we'll see. The leaders of the coup have renamed the Republican Guard Chief General Brice Oligui Nguema the transitional president.
The coup in Gabon is the 8th since 2020 in West and Central Africa, a region that in the last decade had made strides to shed its reputation as a coup belt, only for persistent insecurity and corruption to open the door to military leaders. Let's take you through some of the recent coups that have rocked the region. In August 2020, a group of Malian colonels led by Assimi Goïta ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta following anti-government protests over deteriorating security, contested legislative elections, and allegations of corruption. Also in April 2021, Chad's army took power after President Idriss Déby was killed on the battlefield while visiting troops fighting rebels in the north. In September 2021, Special Forces Commanded Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya ousted President Alpha Conde as he had changed the constitution a year earlier to prevent Conte's third term bid. In January 2022, Burkina Faso Army ousted President Roch Kabore, blaming him for failing to contain violence by Islamist militants. But that's not all that we've seen. In July 2023, members of Niger's Presidential Guard detained President Mohamed Bazoum and announced on national television that they were seizing power to end the deteriorating security situation and bad governance. This was, of course, on the 26th day of July 2023.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, these are some of the things that are always given as excuses for military coups. You know, it's happened the same way back to back for decades, that they blame corruption, failing security situation, exactly.
Most recent reason.
And mismanagement of government resources, some of all of those things, you know, but we never really get to see in many occasions that things actually change, you know, and the lives of the people are actually better. So there's always the argument, you know, against military dictatorship and the military coups and military's involvement in government. But one thing that we've also seen is that every single time, almost every single time this has happened, the people of those countries are celebrating. So you might tell them, oh, you do not know what you're celebrating. Military, you know, should have no business in government and all of that. But there's a reason they're celebrating.
Because they're obviously not satisfied with the level and the quality of governance that they've received. Let's get in our analyst to join us this morning to talk about the growing trend of coups in Africa. We have Bolu Michael-Biyi. He's a former legal advisor at the African Union. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Biyi.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'd like you to get into the conversation and share with us your thoughts on the recent coup in Gabon. It seems that we've had a recent wave of coups, the most recent being, of course, the Niger coup that happened on the 26th of July, 2023. But your reactions to the Gabon coup, first, did you see coming with the recent copycat coups we might refer to them as? Did you foresee this, and what are your thoughts about it?
Okay, what makes this different is that it's more about the election, while others is about the security situation in the respective countries as well as governance. So this one particularly is about the election. And I personally see it as a palace coup than a revolutionary coup. Or because there are no changes in terms of the family being involved. The Bongo family is still the same bloodline. You know, they've been ruling the country for over 50 years now, and the person that has been named as the transitional leader, the person of Brice Nguema, happens to be the cousin of Ali Bongo, and he was put in the position as the president, the lead commander-in-chief of the Presidential Guard, to prevent instances like this. And so I see it more as a palace coup than a revolutionary coup. And my concern is that Gabon may be plunging from fire pan to fire now, because history has showed us that each time there's been a palace coup, the nations have kind of plunged from grace to grass. A typical example is Burkina Faso, when Thomas Sankara died in 1987 after being killed or allegedly killed by the former president Blaise Compaoré, and that seemed like the beginning of the end of the downfall of Burkina Faso. And because leadership is all about character, if a person from within a family could be doing that, it says a lot about the character of the leader. And another fear is that at least democracy, you have some checks and balances, international community can wade in. But in a dictatorship, the will of the common man is taken away. They only just hear, they hear just go, no come. There's no checks and balances. A dictatorship, whatever they say is final. And the political aspiration of the ordinary people is taken away. No matter how bad the country is, under a democratic government, that's when the ordinary person can aspire to be a political leader. You can't do that under a military government. The young child cannot say, I want to be president one day under the military government. And that's the fear. So Gabonese, this is the kind of coup that they should actually fight tooth and nail to prevent, in my opinion.
Well, I'm not sure how much fight they have in them, because Ali Bongo and his family have been there for 56 years. If they could fight, they probably would have had that fight maybe 30 years ago. But one thing that we've continued to see is that when these coups happen, regardless of how you describe it, a palace coup or a revolutionary coup, there's celebration from the people. So can you share, your thoughts on that one? You've said that Gabon may really be going from fry pan to fire, from what you see. But tell us why we continue to see celebration amongst the people when these coups happen, and we don't get to see a lot of people actually, the citizens of that country actually condemn the coup, like you're asking, that they do in this time.
Yeah, it's just, imagine being in the desert for a long time and then you have a drop of water, you celebrate. And even the Holy Book says that when a person is hungry, it's whatever they eat will taste sweet. That's the situation within the country. They've been clamoring for change since independence, since 1967. When late Omar Bongo, took over power and then handed over to the son, and then Nuruddin Bongo is being groomed to take over from Ali Bongo. They just want a change, and that's it. People they'll be in the current feeling and emotions. They just want to see a new face. They just want to hear, a new voice, just been clamoring for change, and that's what they are celebrating. They are celebrating the change, not necessarily that their situation has improved. It's not going to improve overnight, but the fact that for the first time in long while, in over 50 years, they're experiencing something new, and that's why they are celebrating. Over the course of months or weeks ahead, things will begin to unfold, and they will snap out of the emotions and begin to reason, in a more logical way as to what they might be getting into and what the dictatorship and the military government entails. They don't forget they've never really experienced this before, because there was their first president was there for 7 years, and then Omar Bongo for over 40 years, and then another democratic dispensation in the person of Ali Bongo. So this is going to be their major taste of military dictatorship. So they don't really know what they're celebrating at the moment. So in the weeks and months to come, if the government stands, the people will begin to realize whether it really calls for celebration.
What do we make of this, do I call it a dynasty-style leadership? We've seen that Omar Bongo, it was from Omar Bongo and then Ali Bongo, and that's not the only country that we've seen leadership happen in that manner. And then we've seen in Uganda, for example, we currently have Yoweri Museveni. There have been rumors that his son, Kainerugaba, is being groomed to take over from him. We've seen people who will stay in office for years, only for them to hand over to their children. And the question is, what exactly was the point of the election that was being held? Was it just a sham? So talk to us about Nigeria's democracy, considering countries on the Africa's democracy, considering the countries in the continent where they have run their leadership as a dynasty, it's been handed from father to son. And what then is the essence of the elections?
Okay, it's just a reflection of the failure of the other arms of government, that is the legislature and then the judiciary. The executive will not be able to take such actions if they don't have the buy-in of the legislature and the judiciary. It just shows that the judiciary of those countries have been bought over, and the legislature is also a rubber stamp one. And that's the point where Nigeria has to be careful as well. The role of the legislature is supposedly meant to be the checks and balances within the government and put pressure on the actions or ideas or strategies or frameworks or policies of the executive. So when they are talking about term removal of term limits and things like that, it can't happen if they don't assent, if the legislature doesn't assent to it. Winning in court over issues when it's clear that there's been when it's clear that there's something fraudulent somewhere, and then the judiciary declares something else. I mean, it's the failure of the system, it's the total breakdown of the system. The sociologists will refer to a state of anomy where people will just get so frustrated they can't take it anymore, and then they take to the street, they take laws into their hands, and they want to resort to self-help. It becomes a DIY, do-it-yourself style of governance. And we saw that in North Africa during the Arab Spring, where people just got frustrated, a person set himself on fire. That is, the reaction of the people to a system that is broken. They will tolerate it for a while, but then it gets to a breaking point where they can't take it anymore. And I hope that in Nigeria, we are learning from history about things that have been unfolding in this country, and ensure as much as possible that the impunity that may be taking place in our country ends, and that the legislature and the judiciary, they do the needful when necessary.
All right. I also want to talk about the international community. France has, seemingly not been so eager to, return Gabon back to a democratic rule. The same way they were with Niger. When the Niger coup happened, it felt like the world was, upside down. But Gabon, the reaction seems to be different. Can you share, why this might be? And of course, do we ever get to see a situation where, Emmanuel Macron, whoever it is, that is the French president, stays completely away from issues in Africa?
Okay, the first point I would like to make is that I think, first of all, it might be a coincidence that we are seeing they just happen to be French-speaking countries, because majority of countries in Africa are former French colonies. You can literally practically close your eyes and point to the map of Africa. There's a 75% chance that you're pointing to a French-speaking country. So it's not really about French-speaking country, English-speaking country, or Portuguese. It just happens to be a French-speaking country. The second thing that makes it the Niger coup different from the one in Gabon is the jurisdiction of the regional body. For Niger is under ECOWAS. Gabon is a Central African country and is under the jurisdiction of the Economic Community of Central African States. Another difference is that the coup in Niger is about the style of governance and the perpetual subjugation of Niger by France. The one for Gabon is about the electoral process, which I personally believe that is just the person being named as a transitional leader taking advantage of the situation. Because if there was no election in Gabon, I don't think that we have seen a coup today. Rumor has it that it's always behind the presidency. And the reason why France is not saying anything yet is because they're still trying to maybe observe and see what unfolds. The second possible reason might be that they don't see any change. They don't see any change in governance, because for the Bongo family, for a government to be there for over 50 years, a family to be there for, that means they are enjoying, they are fulfilling their part of the post-colonial agreements. They are happy with them. Because if the West or the superpower is not happy with the government, history has showed us that they will try to get the person out. For example, Muammar Gaddafi in Libya was very strong about against the West, opposing them tooth and nail and in every way. Same as the former president of Zimbabwe, who may have been taken out, if not that he was already old and was on his way out. So France, they are satisfied with the Bongo regime, and now saying that it's going back to the same family, not much has changed. That might be another reason why France has not said anything yet. Yeah.
I'd also like us to talk a little about France. President Emmanuel Macron did visit Gabon sometime earlier in the year, sometime in March, and some people interpreted his visit to signify him showing support for President Ali Bongo in preparation for the just concluded elections that have led to his overturn. He did say in a speech, he gave a speech somewhere, during the summit, and he did say that the era of Franc-Afrique is over. But the way and manner in which France has responded, for example, to Niger's coup was very, very strong. France obviously was not pleased at all with the coup that happened in Niger. So is the era really of Franc-Afrique, I beg your pardon, is it really over? Do we get to see the African countries that, of course, have gotten their independence from France? Do we get to see them operate as independent identities, independent entities, totally independent of the French influence?
I don't see that happening soon. If the leaders that have been there are still, from time immemorial, are still there, nothing is going to change as far as these leaders who pay allegiance to France are there. The only thing that I feel might make a change is when there's a revolution, and all those Franc-Afrique and all, they're just rhetorics. One reason why Niger is different, France took it serious, like very serious, is because they have strong economic interest in Niger at the moment, and it's about like I said, perpetual subjugation of France. It was at the center stages. France, insecurity, they were tired of the French rule. So it was a direct confrontation. And also the issue whereby, the junta asked that the French ambassador to leave. All those things that they signify that it's all about France. That's why they take it so seriously. For Gabon, it's not about France. It's about the election. So that's the difference. They have France has strong economic interest in Niger in terms of natural resources. They have uranium. Niger has sizable amount of uranium being exploited by France. They don't want to let go of that. Now, new faces, they've been dealing with people for years, and the new faces just coming to threaten their economic interest. Definitely, they're going to kick it back. But the economic interest of France in Gabon is not interested at the moment because it's the same family. It's just all about the election, no direct confrontation or France. Nothing is being said about the French ambassador and things like that. So that's the difference. If we're going to see a change in Africa in terms of Franc-Afrique, which I think from Macron's side is just rhetorics, it has to take like a serious revolution, something like the Arab Spring and stuff like that would need to happen for that to really take place in this French, in African countries in general.
Well, the Arab Spring didn't really bring a lot of change to that part of of the continent either. There's a strong argument to show that it was orchestrated by certain factors. And not just to place into proper context when we're talking about leaders. Cameroon's president Paul Biya has been in office for about 40 years now. And I don't know if we would ever get to see the people be able to take back their country from not just the colonial leaders, but even from their own government, because apparently the people who have led these countries are no different from the colonizers. Mr. B, thank you so much for stopping by. We look forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.